Mason's gloved hands trembled as he wrenched open the van's back door, snow cascading in like an unwanted intruder. Timmy's eyes, wide and terrified, locked onto his big brown pools brimming with the kind of fear that no kid should ever know. "It's okay, buddy," Mason said, his voice steady despite the chaos churning inside him. He was a CEO, for Christ's sake, the kind of guy who closed billion-dollar deals over steak at per se without breaking a sweat. But here, in the maw of this Colorado whiteout, he was just a man with a pounding heart and a desperate need to make this right. He scooped Timmy up first, the boy's small body shivering violently against his chest, that damn teddy bear wedged between them like a talisman. "Shoo, I've got you. Your mom's gonna be fine." Elena stirred then, a weak groan escaping her lips as Mason reached in to unbuckle her. She was light, too light, like she'd been carrying the weight of the world on those narrow shoulders for far too long. He half-dragged, half-carried her to his SUV, the wind whipping her dark hair across her face, matted with blood and ice. By the time he got them both inside, cranking the heat to blast furnace levels, Mason's coat was a sodden ruin, and his fingers numb as stumps. He peeled off his gloves, fumbling for his phone. No signal, of course, because why the hell not? "Stay with me, Elena," he murmured, pressing a wad of napkins from the console to her wound. She fluttered her eyes open, confusion etching lines around them. "Who?" she whispered, her voice a rasp. "Mason, just some idiot on the road. You hit a patch of black ice back there. Timmy's okay, he's right here." The kid was curled in the back, clutching the bear, staring at Mason like he was Santa Claus or the Grim Reaper. Elena reached out a shaky hand, and Mason guided it to her son's knee. "Thank you," she breathed, tears carving tracks through the grime on her cheeks. "God, thank you. We were heading to my sister's in Vale. Lost control. Don't talk. Save your strength." Mason glanced at the dashboard clock, 2:17 a.m. The storm was worsening. Even he knew better than to push on. His cabin was 20 minutes back the way he'd come, a secluded A-frame he'd bought on a whim after his divorce from corporate life, or whatever the hell you called it when your lover of 10 years bailed for a straight life in suburbia. Alex. The name still tasted like ash. He radioed the state troopers on his CB spotty, but it got through. "Rescue op in progress. Got 2 civilians, one's injured. Coordinates incoming." Then he gunned the engine, navigating by memory and gut, the SUV plowing through drifts that swallowed lesser vehicles whole. Timmy whimpered the whole way, but Elena managed a faint smile, murmuring stories about Timmy's favorite cartoon dinosaurs to keep him calm. The cabin loomed like a beacon when they finally crested the hill, logs glowing under the emergency lights Mason flicked on from his key fob. He carried Timmy inside first, the warmth hitting them like a hug from an old friend. The place was all exposed beams and leather couches, a far cry from his sleek Manhattan penthouse, but it had a fireplace that roared to life with a flick of the remote. Elena next, settling her on the oversized sectional with pillows and a blanket that smelled faintly of pine. Timmy wouldn't let go of him. "You stay?" the boy asked, his lower lip quivering. Mason knelt, meeting those eyes head-on. "Yeah, kiddo. I'm not going anywhere." He ruffled the damp curls, something twisting in his chest. A pang he hadn't felt since Alex packed his bags and whispered, "I can't do this anymore, Maze. It's not me. Lies. All of it." Alex had found Jesus and a nice girl from accounting, or so the tabloid spun it when the story leaked. Mason had buried himself in work, climbing to CEO of Vanguard Tech, a Silicon Valley darling transplanted to Denver for the outdoor lifestyle. Bullshit. It was escape. Elena was out cold by then, so Mason cleaned her wound with the first aid kit. Stitches from a hunting accident years back had taught him the basics, and checked Timmy for hypothermia. The boy was warming up, color returning to his cheeks, but exhaustion hit like a freight train. Mason tucked him into the guest room with a stack of old board books from the shelf, remnants of a life he almost had. Dawn crept in gray and reluctant, the storm still raging outside, turning the world into a muffled cocoon. Mason brewed coffee strong enough to strip paint, nursing a mug by the window as Elena stirred. She looked younger in the light, mid-30s maybe, with laugh lines that spoke of better days and shadows under her eyes that whispered of too many bad ones. "You saved us," she said simply, accepting the mug he handed her. Her voice was stronger, laced with that soft Midwestern lilt. Ohio, he'd guess. Just right place, right time. He shrugged, but her gaze pinned him, seeing through the CEO armor. I'm Elena, that's Timmy. And you're Mason Whitaker? The Mason Whitaker? I recognize you from that TED Talk on ethical AI. Denver's golden boy. He chuckled, low and bitter. Guilty. But out here, I'm just the guy with the snowblower. They talked then, halting at first, her fleeing an ex in Grand Junction, him dodging questions about why a billionaire was solo in a blizzard. Timmy wandered in, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and latched onto Mason like a barnacle, demanding pancakes. Mason obliged, whipping up a batch from memory. His mama's recipe, the one thing from his Alabama roots he hadn't scrubbed clean. As they ate at the island, syrup dripping everywhere, Elena watched him with something like wonder. You're good with him, she said softly. Kids are easy, honest, unlike boardrooms full of sharks, or lovers who lied. The day blurred into storm watching and stories. Timmy built forts from blankets, declaring Mason Captain Blizzard Buster. Elena shared snippets. A dead-end job at a diner, Timmy's kindergarten woes, the ex who drank too much and hit too hard. Mason listened, really listened, the kind of deep dive he reserved for quarterly reports. In return, he cracked open his own vault. A boy from the South who knew he was gay at 12 came out at 18, built an empire on code and caffeine. But love? That was the glitch he couldn't debug. By evening, the power flickered but held, and they played charades by candlelight when it dipped. Timmy acted out a T-Rex, roaring with glee, and Mason hammed it up as the hapless caveman. Elena dissolving into laughter that lit the room brighter than any bulb. For the first time in years, the cabin didn't echo with silence. That night, as Timmy snored softly and Elena dozed with a painkiller haze, Mason stepped onto the porch, the wind a dull roar now. Stars peeked through thinning clouds, sharp as diamonds. He thought of Alex's laugh, the way it used to chase away his doubts. Betrayal had hollowed him out, left him chasing deals like ghosts. But here, with these strangers turned lifelines, something stirred. A crack in the ice around his heart. Little did he know, the real storm was just beginning. 2 days into the whiteout, and the world outside Mason's cabin had shrunk to a snow globe eternity. Troopers airlifted supplies, food, meds, a generator that hummed like a contented beast. But the roads stayed buried, trapping them in this suspended limbo. Elena's gash healed to a pink scar, Timmy's cough from the cold faded, and Mason found himself. Content? The word felt foreign, like a suit 2 sizes too small. Morning started with Timmy's battering ram of a hug, demanding Uncle Mays, read him where the wild things are. Elena pitched in with breakfast, her hand steady now, flipping eggs with a grace that spoke of diner shifts survived. She'd open up more over coffee, how Jake, her brother, had been her rock until he moved to Boulder for art school. How Timmy's dad bailed before the pregnancy test turned pink, leaving her to scrape by on tips and pride. You're stronger than you know, Mason told her one afternoon, as they shoveled the porch together, Timmy helping by tossing snowballs at their boots. Flakes caught in her lashes, and she blinked them away, smiling that weary warrior smile. Or just stubborn. What's your excuse for playing house, Mr. CEO? I figured you'd have a jet evacuating you by now. He leaned on his shovel, breath fogging the air. Truth? This beats Zoom calls with venture vultures. And, I don't know, you two feel like a reminder of what I almost had. The words slipped out, unbidden. Alex's ghost hovered there, in the steam of their exhales. Elena's eyes softened. Almost? Sounds like a story. It was. Over stew that night, venison from Mason's freezer, slow-cooked with root veggies, he spilled it. The early days. Alex, the brilliant coder who'd crashed into his life at a San Francisco hackathon. All tattoos and sarcasm. Their loft in the Mission. Nights coding till dawn. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of coffee and possibility. We talked marriage, kids via surrogate. The whole picket fence remix. Mason's voice cracked on the last word. Then he ghosts. Comes back with a ring for some intern named Sarah. Said he'd found clarity in therapy. Clarity my ass, it was fear. Of the boardrooms, the headlines. Of us. Timmy, oblivious, colored dinosaurs at the table. But Elena reached across, squeezing Mason's hand. That ain't clarity. That's cowardice. And it doesn't make you less. He pulled back, the touch too raw. Doesn't make me whole either. That night, sleep evaded him. The fire's glow casting shadows that danced like accusations. Betrayal wasn't just Alex's, it was his own, for building walls higher than the Rockies. Rescue came on day 4, plows rumbling like thunder. A trooper's cruiser idled at the gate, Elena bundling Timmy into his coat. We can't impose forever, she said, but her eyes begged otherwise. Bullshit, Mason replied, loading their van with groceries. Cash slipped into her glove box like contraband. You're not imposing. You're family. For a minute, Timmy hugged his legs, whispering, come visit, Uncle Mays. Promise. Cross my heart, kiddo. He watched them drive off, taillights swallowed by flurries, a hollow ache blooming in his chest. Back inside, the cabin felt cavernous, echoes mocking him. He poured a scotch neat and dialed his assistant. Clear my schedule. Taking a sabbatical. Denver welcomed him back with slushy streets and skyscraper glare. Vanguard's glass tower loomed like a monolith, his office a sterile shrine of awards and screens. But the board meeting that week cracked the facade. Harlan, his CFO and supposed best friend since Stanford, presented innovations. Code pilfered straight from Mason's pet project, rebranded as Harlan's brainchild. You son of a bitch, Mason hissed in the elevator after cornering him. That's my algorithm. You think I wouldn't notice? Harlan's face twisted, all false joviality. Come on, Mays, it's business. The board wants fresh blood. You're the visionary. I'm the executor. Play nice or what? You leak my personal distractions to the press. The betrayal landed like a gut punch. Harlan knew about Alex, the coming out scandals, the surrogacy dreams dashed. Leverage weaponized. Harlan smirked. We all have skeletons. Yours are just fabulous. Mason stormed out, the city a blur of neon and noise. He ended up at a dive bar in Lodo, nursing IPAs until his phone buzzed. Elena. Timmy's fever spiked. ER in Boulder. Can't afford the tests. Help? He was there in under an hour, tires screaming into the hospital lot. Elena paced the sterile hall. Timmy hooked to IVs, his small face flushed. Pneumonia, the doc said. From the cold exposure. Needs scans, antibiotics, thousands, easy. Done, Mason said, whipping out his card. Whatever it takes. Elena collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Why? You don't even know us. Because I do. And because fuck it, life's too short for half measures. He stayed through the night, holding Timmy's hand as beeps marked the hours. Elena dozing on his shoulder. Dawn brought improvement, the boy's grip loosening in sleep. Jake arrived mid-morning, a whirlwind of paint-splattered jeans and kind hazel eyes. Elena's brother, the artist from Boulder. Sis called, said some blizzard night was riding in. He extended a hand, calloused from brushes, not keyboards. Jake Rivera. Heard you're the guy who makes robots think. Mason shook it, a spark jumping despite the exhaustion. Mason. And yeah, but they still can't tie their own shoes. Jake's laugh was easy, warm, like sunlight after endless gray. He scooped Timmy for a cuddle when the nurses allowed, cooing in Spanish, then turned those eyes on Mason. You look like hell. Hero complex suits you, though. Flirtation, or fatigue playing tricks. Mason filed it away, focusing on discharge papers. But as they wheeled Timmy out, Jake lingered. Coffee? My treat. For saving my family. It was the start of something. Over lattes at a corner cafe, Jake sketched on a napkin. Timmy is a superhero, cape billowing, while prying gently into Mason's world. Sis says you're gay. Out and proud. Out, anyway. Proud, so work in progress. The admission felt lighter here, away from boardroom vultures. Jake nodded. No judgment, just a quiet, me too. Canvas doesn't care about labels, but Denver? Sometimes it does. His gaze held Mason's, a question unspoken. Weeks blurred. Mason funneled resources into Timmy's care, Elena crashing at Jake's loft when shifts allowed. Harlan's coup simmered, whispers in the halls, but Mason countered with a whistleblower app. Ironic, his own tech biting back. And Jake became the constant. Studio visits where turpentine mingled with takeout Thai. Late-night talks on the rooftop about lost loves. Jake's ex, a gallery owner who traded passion for profit. "You're not like him," Jake said one night, their shoulders brushing as city lights twinkled below. "You're real, scars and all." Mason's pulse thrummed. "Careful. I might believe you." Then the text from Elena. "Timmy's tests. It's leukemia. Relapsed. We need a miracle." The storm returned, fiercer than before. Leukemia. The word landed like a blizzard all its own, burying Mason under an avalanche of helplessness. Timmy's relapse, diagnosed young, in remission till now, meant chemo, trials, bone marrow hunts. Elena's texts were frantic. Funds tapped. Jake's maxed his cards. Can't lose him. Mason didn't hesitate. He liquidated stock options, funneled it into a trust, hired the top oncologist at CU Med. But money couldn't buy time, and time was the thief circling Timmy's bed. The loft became command central. Jake's space, a riot of canvases and half-finished sculptures, now cluttered with medical charts and dinosaur puzzles. Mason crashed on the couch most nights, waking to Timmy's giggles or Elena's quiet sobs. Jake moved like a quiet force, cooking pozole from their abuela's recipe, distracting the boy with face paints that turned him into a fierce velociraptor. "You're a natural," Mason told Jake one evening, as they washed dishes side by side, suds bubbling like secrets. Timmy napped nearby, Elena at a support group. Jake flicked water at him, grinning. "Blame the foster gigs in college. Kids see through bullshit faster than adults." His hand lingered on Mason's, a deliberate brush. "You, though? You're in deep. Why us?" Mason dried a plate, the ceramic cool against his palm. "Because you remind me life's not just code. And because of him." He nodded toward Timmy. "He looks at me like I'm invincible. No one's done that since. Alex." The name hung unspoken. Jake turned, hip against the sink, eyes searching. "Since the guy who broke you?" "Yeah." Mason's throat tightened. "Alex didn't just leave. He erased me, changed his number, scrubbed our life like a bad commit. I found out from a mutual friend he's got a kid now. Wife. The works. Like I was a phase." Jake's jaw clenched, anger flashing hot. "Phases don't build empires together. That's on him, Maze. Not you." He stepped closer, the air thickening. "You're not a phase to me." The kiss happened then, tentative at first. Jake's lips soft, tasting of salt and chamomile tea. Then deepening as Mason surrendered, hands fisting in that paint-flecked shirt. It was fire in the veins, a thaw after years of frost. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, Timmy's soft snores the only witness. "Sorry," Jake murmured. "Not sorry at all." "Don't be." Mason cupped his face, thumb tracing the stubble. "Just don't disappear." "I won't." Promise sealed in the dim kitchen light. But betrayal brewed darker shadows. At Vanguard, Harlan escalated. Leaking doctored emails painting Mason as unstable, distracted by personal drama. The board called an emergency vote. Mason's seat teetered. He fought back in the war room of his office, screens glowing like battle maps, but doubt gnawed. Was this the curse? Love as liability? Worse came from Elena's ex, Derek, a grease monkey mechanic with a rap sheet and a grudge. He stormed Jake's loft one rain-slick night, pounding the door like Judgment Day. "That my boy in there? Gimme him, or I call CPS." Elena barricaded the door, Timmy wailing from his room. Mason arrived mid-shout, Jake flanking him, a human wall of fury. "Back off, asshole," Mason growled. "Phone out, 911 queued." "You're not touching them." Derek sneered, eyes bloodshot. "Rich prick thinks he can buy my family? Elena's mine. Horse spread her legs for cash. Now this fairy shows up." The slur hit like shrapnel, but Mason held, Jake's hand on his arm a grounding wire. Cops hauled Derek away, restraining order filed by dawn. Elena broke then, collapsing into Jake's arms. "He knows about the cancer. Said he'd sue for custody. Say I'm unfit. Over my dead body," Mason vowed, pacing the loft like a caged lion. Later, alone with Jake on the fire escape, rain drumming a staccato rhythm, he confessed the fear. What if Harlan's right? I'm poison. Pull you all under. Jake pulled him close, rain soaking through. Or lift us up. You're not poison, Maze. You're the guy who braved a blizzard for strangers. That's love. Messy, real love. Their nights deepened stolen moments in Jake's studio, bodies mapping each other like uncharted code. Jake's touch was reverent, tracing scars from Mason's appendectomy, whispering, beautiful, against his collarbone. Mason, in turn, learned the topography of Jake's back, the tattoo of a phoenix inked after his own coming-out brawl with their dad. Sex wasn't conquest. It was communion, laughter bubbling up mid-thrust when Timmy's dinosaur roar echoed from a cartoon in the next room. Yet the climax loomed. Timmy's chemo round hit hard, hair falling in clumps, nights of vomit and tears. Mason held him through it, reading stories till his voice hoarsed, Jake painting murals on the hospital walls to chase the sterile away. Elena's gratitude turned to guilt. You deserve a life. Not this. This is my life, Mason shot back. You gave it back to me. Harlan's endgame dropped like a bomb. A proxy fight, investors poached, Mason ousted in a 51-49 vote. He walked out of Vanguard that Friday, box of plaques under arm, the Denver skyline mocking him through plate glass. Betrayed again by the brother he trusted, the empire he bled for. He drove straight to the loft, collapsing on the couch as Jake brewed tea. Lost it all? Mason muttered, head in hands. Company, dignity, everything. Jake knelt, tilting his chin up. Not everything. Not us. The kiss was fierce, a lifeline. But as they tangled on the rug, passion a brief eclipse, Mason's phone lit. Unknown number. Voicemail. Mr. Whitaker? This is Dr. Patel from Alexei Memorial. Your name came up in our donor database. For Timmy's marrow match. It's you. 89%. But there's more. The father. It's Alexander Grant. He listed you as emergency contact years ago, before he passed. The room spun. Alex dead? And Timmy, his? The hospital corridor stretched infinite. Fluorescent hum a dirge as Mason clutched the printout. Match probability, donor protocol, the cold facts that shattered his world. Alex, gone 18 months from pancreatic cancer, silent to the end. And Timmy? Elena's ex wasn't some deadbeat. It was a lie, a shield. Alex had begged her to carry the child, their surrogate pact from sunnier days, before the fear, the erasure. He wanted you involved, Dr. Patel explained gently. But when things soured, Elena honored his wishes, kept it quiet to protect you both. Protect. The word curdled. Mason stormed the waiting room, Elena rising like a ghost, eyes hollow. You knew, he accused, voice a whip crack. All this time. Blizzard, cancer, Jake? And you never said? Tears streamed, but she didn't flinch. He made me promise. Don't drag Mason back in, he said. He deserves better than my mess. She sank into a chair, hands twisting. I was scared. Of losing Timmy to Derek's threats. Of you walking away if you knew the truth. But God, Maze, you're the best thing that's happened to us. Betrayal layered on betrayal. Alex's ghost, Elena's silence. The child who'd burrowed into his heart now bloodbound. He's my son, Mason whispered, the enormity crashing. Not just rescued, reclaimed. Jake found him in the chapel, empty save for flickering votives. Mason spilled it all, sobs racking him like aftershocks. I hated him, for leaving, for the lies. And now, Timmy's his, ours. What the hell do I do? Jake wrapped around him, solid as oak. You show up, like always. No pity, just truth. Alex was a fool, but he gave you this, a chance to be the dad he couldn't. The transplant was a gauntlet, harvesting Mason's marrow. The OR's sterile chill, weeks of isolation as Timmy recovered. Jake shuttled between, smuggling in sketchpads and smuggled empanadas. Elena rebuilt therapy and a job at a nonprofit Mason quietly funded. No strings. Harlan, karma's will turned. His innovations tanked in beta. Investors fleeing. Vanguard sold to an ethical startup that rehired Mason as advisor. Poetic in its way. Spring thawed Denver, cherry blossoms dusting the loft like confetti. Timmy's counts climbed, his bald head crowned with a knit cap Jake crocheted, Lopsided. Perfect. One park afternoon, under a sky bluer than regret, Timmy tugged Mason's sleeve. Uncle Maze? Mommy says you're my real dad now. Like, for keeps. Mason knelt, heart full to bursting. Yeah, buddy. For keeps. And hey, call me Dad if you want. Or Captain Blizzard Buster. Your call. Timmy beamed, hugging fierce. Dad. Elena watched from the bench, peace in her eyes, while Jake slung an arm around Mason's shoulders. Told you. Not poison. Phoenix. That night, after bedtime stories and Elena's grateful goodnight, they slipped to the rooftop. City lights sprawled below, a tapestry of second chances. Jake pulled a small box from his pocket. A ring, simple tungsten etched with code. If love, forever. Marry me? Jake asked, voice steady, eyes alight. Mason laughed, tears pricking. Hell yes. The kiss sealed it under stars that no longer mocked. What Mason learned in that blizzard wasn't just survival. It was resurrection. Love wasn't a glitch to debug. It was the code itself, messy and infinite. Family, chosen, forged in storms and scars. Alex's betrayal had been a door slammed, but Timmy cracked it wide, letting light flood in. And Jake? He was the horizon, endless and true. In the end, the CO didn't save the mother and child. They saved him, reminding a man adrift that vulnerability wasn't weakness, but the bravest algorithm of all.